Let's talk about Sudan. Sudan is now experiencing one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world and an ongoing genocide, especially in the Darfur region. But what led to what we are seeing now on our screens? In 2018, the Sudanese people took to the streets and began protesting with corruption and an economic crisis at the center of these protests. The dictator, Omar al-Bashir, was ousted by a joint campaign of two military fractions. On one side was a paramilitary group, the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, which are led by Hamidi, and on the other side you have the SAF, the Sudanese Armed Forces, led by al-Burhan. These two army groups came together, and what was meant to be a transitional period where both would share power and eventually hand over power to civilian rule and democratic elections. But as you know, power is something very difficult for both of these sides to let go of. And when negotiations broke down about how the RSF was to be integrated into the Sudanese armed forces and how power would be eventually handed over, a war broke out.
This isn't a civil war. It is a war between two warlords that is an affront for a proxy war for land and resources.
Has resulted in millions being displaced and hundreds of thousands being killed. What's making this conflict even worse is that there are many different countries that are now hedging their bets and picking sides of who would win. A large part of this is for better trade deals for the resources in Sudan, including in the Darfur region of gold and mining sectors, and down in the east coast of the Sudanese coastal line to the Red Sea, a very large and profitable trade route. And these countries have all hedged their bets. What has now happened is the RSF has been committing mass atrocities, genocide and murder, especially of non-Arab ethnic groups in the Darfur region. These images now are being pushed worldwide, and we're beginning to see what happens when a paramilitary group is funded with state-of-the-art weapons and money and given free rein over a defenseless population, very similar to what is going on in Gaza. We need to remember that these conflicts are interlinked. Money, resources, land are usually the cornerstone for why these conflicts occurs. And unfortunately, Sudan and the Sudanese people have been caught in the crosshairs. But I want to talk a little bit more about the RSF. The RSF are backed by many powers, some even in the Middle East, who have given free rein to the RSF to commit these atrocities in order for the RSF to hand over gold reserves that they have. The RSF has not just been responsible for atrocities that have occurred over the last few years in Sudan during this civil war, but they have been responsible for atrocities that have occurred over the last 30 years in the Darfur region. The RSF was a paramilitary group that were supported and legitimized by Omar al-Bashir, the former Sudanese dictator, and he used the RSF to commit atrocities in the Darfur region over the last 30 years. They were his proxy to quell any opposition to his 30-year rule and also to bring down any legitimate opposition to him. And this militia group has grown over those 30 years and become more of a tool of oppression of its own people. And this has caught the attention of many global powers who see the RSF as a militia that can carry out their agenda. And now world powers are hedging their bets of who will win, the SAF or the RSF, and they are picking and choosing and arming each side to hopefully for them to get better trade deals. This is the conflict in Sudan, and I'll be talking a lot more about this and why this is such an important issue. But we have to always remember these conflicts all around the world are intertwined, and the freedom of one is always intertwined with the freedom of other. Sudan, for a very, very long time, was an important part of the Muslim world and still is. And Sudan has always been a supporter of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. In the 90s and 80s and even in the early 2000s, Sudanese people used to donate blood, and these trucks used to arrive from Sudan to the Gaza Strip with blood donated by the Sudanese people. There used to be classrooms where even children would donate their pocket money to Palestine and the Palestinian cause. Sudan has a long history of supporting the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. And it is important for everybody who supports the Palestinian cause to educate themselves and learn about what's going on in Sudan, because the Sudanese people right now are experiencing one of the worst humanitarian crises and are undergoing their own displacement and genocide within their own borders. So I will be talking a lot more about this, but please get educated about Sudan and learn about why this is such an important topic that's intertwined with the Palestinian struggle and the Palestinian cause.